Sinha, your host, and today we have the pleasure of welcoming Melanie Peacock. She runs a company called Double M Training and Consulting, where she provides HR consulting services. She is also an author and renowned keynote speaker, as well as an associate professor at Mount Royal University in Calgary, Alberta. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words and a nice introduction. And I'm just so looking forward to our conversation today. And thank everybody who's taking the time to listen in.
Great. So I think I can just get started. My first question is just like briefly introduce yourself. Like, what work are you doing right now, and what led you to that?
So what work am I doing now? All of it, lots of it. I feel very blessed that I have multiple interests and multiple things that I have on my agenda and on my plate. So, of course, right now I am a teacher. I'm an educator at a university. I often joke that, I get paid to talk. I get paid to talk to people. Some people would pay me to shut up. Other people are paying me to talk and share my passion and share my expertise and stories in human resources. I'm also finishing up a next textbook. I feel so happy that I get to write. I get to share my knowledge and research current trends, current information and data, and then put it in a format that's accessible to students all across Canada. Now, this particular textbook is based for the Canadian audience, but I've also done another book that's received wide acclaim dealing with change management competencies for HR professionals. So I'm writing. What am I doing? I'm also speaking at various events. Just actually earlier today, I was part of a panel discussion where we were talking for a national event about talent and how to keep your pipeline and access to people open and strategic, very topical in today's work environment. And tomorrow I'm going to be talking about mental health in the workplace and moderating a panel on that. So always lots on the go and lots of interesting things.
Yeah, that's amazing. It seems like you're doing a lot of speaking and you're really like passionate about all of it, which is just amazing. And I think my next question is more about like your background. So like, how do you think your culture or your background or identity inform the way that you make the decisions and the decisions you've made like in the past, whether it be career or personal?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm pondering that question deeply, and it's really at the heart of it is how does who we are impact what we are? Right? Because when people ask me, what is the question when people meet you? They'll usually say, hi, what's your name? Right? And you'll tell you. And the next question they'll ask you is, so what do you do? And that's so interesting because we tend to define ourselves and explain ourselves to people by what we do. Right? So I'll say, I'm an educator, I'm a writer, I'm a speaker. I'll also share that I'm a I'm a mother, a real breed. You can look it up later. Everybody listening in or watching will say Beagalier. That's actually an actual dog. You can Google it. But that's what I am. How does that impact who I am? Right. And when people that are joining us and watching and listening in, I encourage them to think about that too. I would love to get to a place where when we talk about ourselves or we ask people to introduce themselves to us, it's more than just what we do. It's who we are. What are our value systems? What are we passionate about? What makes our heart race? What's our core and our purpose? And so this is a very long answer to such a nice question you've asked, but I think about how I grew up. And as an only child, I was always intrigued and always around adults. And so I would listen to them talk and I would be intrigued by their stories. And they'd often talk about work. How was your day at work? And my parents would come over and they'd talk about their jobs. And I would often hear them talk about frustrations, or they seemed sad or despondent or discouraged. And even as a child, I was intrigued by that. And I thought, why does it have to be like that? Like, why can't we find ways to make work more enjoyable and purposeful? And people have, yes, they have to work and accomplish things and they're being paid to do that. But why does it have to be so miserable? And it didn't align with my value systems right from the get-go. So those experiences based on my values of belonging, results through and with people, not at the expense of them. I often say that. So it sort of led me to where I am now.
Okay, amazing. I think that question, end of that question really cut out for me. I don't know if. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, the end
You
of
want
that.
to try the end again?
Yeah, I don't know if you could hear what I said before the Zoom disconnected, but I was just saying I think the end of the question cut out for me a little bit. So
could you kind of remember which part cut out, right where I got to?
Yeah, I think you were talking about like the part where you're talking about your family and like seeing them come home from work, that was came across fine, but I think right after that you said something that I like didn't catch. It was like it came out.
Okay, so we'll try again.
Yeah, okay. It's recording, so just
Yeah, we'll keep going. The editors will work their
Yes.
magic. Lovely. Thank you. So when I watched adults interact and talk with one another, and I listened to them share their stories of work, my parents' friends would come over, and often they seemed unhappy or deflated, demotivated. I'll even use the word despondent. And I often wondered, even as a child, why does it have to be like that? Like, it doesn't align with my value system. I believe in, yes, you have to work hard and produce results, but you should do so with purpose and passion and meaning. And there should be a way for people to act and interact that meets the needs of organizations and people. It can fulfill two entities very easily. And so all of that, my value system and the experiences I had as a child have sort of led me to where I am now.
Okay, great. I think that was a really wonderful answer. Really encompassed, I think, what the heart of what this question was really asking. And I think my next question just goes into specifically like diversity. Like, what does diversity mean to you and why?
Yeah, and so it's so amazing to me that we're prominently talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. And people will listen in and say, isn't that always been the case? And it hasn't. It really hasn't. And so it's so heartwarming to me that this is coming to the forefront and that we're strategically addressing it on a conscious, overt, actionable level.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to me? And long before it was in the discussions, long before, of course, it means to me respecting, welcoming, listening, learning from, whether people look the same as you, sound the same as you, have different religious beliefs than you, those kind of things that seem pretty typical for diversity. But again, long before this was even discussed, I've always shared with my students, I'm a big believer in diversity of thought. Diversity to me isn't just about how you look, where you come from, the religion you practice, the language you speak. It's also how you think.
Yeah.
And we need to embrace and encourage diversity of ideas. We've come to a world where it's almost controversial to disagree.
Yeah.
And, we've, you ghost people, cancel culture. And of course, there's appropriate times for certain actions, and people should be held accountable for very, very inappropriate things. But I really hope that we can continue to respectfully convey different opinions, to disagree with each other and to learn from each other, because that diversity of thought is critical. I often say, if you and I agree about absolutely everything, every single time, then one of us isn't necessary.
Yeah.
If we're sitting in a workplace, and we're just always the same, where is that diversity of thought?
Yeah, you need that back and forth. And I think that's where like all the best ideas even come from. It's like talking with people and being like, oh, I didn't think of it this way, and then adjusting accordingly. So yeah, I think that's really needed and something that's not talked about as much as the diversity of thought.
And I find it frustrating when people don't agree with me. Of course I do. Like even, I'll say, we could both be wrong. So why would I agree? But it's even being willing to just listen and try and put myself in other people's perspectives, see things through their lens. And even if it doesn't change my mind, the ability to try that is in itself a skill that we need, because it will open up other thought processes, maybe even if not immediately, then later.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's just so needed and such a process that we need to go through. Yeah, amazing. So I think my next question just focuses on you directly. Like, what are some challenges you face as a woman entering the workforce, and what are the challenges you face today? Do you think like the challenges have changed or evolved over time?
And again, we're so more willing to talk about these things now and share our stories from a place of vulnerability and authenticity. So when I first started out in the workforce, yes, 30 some years ago, which means I started when I was 10. No, no, I mean, it's been a long time that I've been in the workforce. And when I first started out, issues that you faced as a woman, it was deal with it.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
shove it down, just have to deal with it. Like things like being a working mother.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're just expected to, let's not talk about flexibility and accommodation and those, just your employer has certain needs, you meet them. Issues about, will I be treated differently because I am a woman? So I'm saying hello to you from Alberta, and Alberta is notorious for oil and gas.
Yeah.
And I, of course, at one stage in my career, early in my HR career, worked for a pipeline company in the oil and gas industry. And I remember my boss at the time when I was hired, he was an incredibly brilliant man, very strategic, a forward and advanced thinker, and said to me on my first day, as I sat down in my new office, he said, look, I'm going to say something to you, and it's probably not, as you kids would call it, politically correct, but I'm going to say it anyway. That's the way he was. He was a straight shooter. He said, you're going to have some problems in this company. I looked at him. I thought, my first day, I haven't even said anything or done anything.
Yeah.
You're going to have problems because you're young, you're educated, you're vocal, you're a woman, and there's not a lot of women around here, and you're a person of color. You don't look like a lot of other people here. He
Wow.
said, so you're going to have some problems, and I don't want you to take it personally, but I don't want you to be surprised by it. So even he recognized those barriers, but to a point where it would be recognized, but not a lot of discussion about
Mm-hmm.
is it appropriate or how it should be fixed. Now,
Mm-hmm.
me being me went, okay, bring it on.
Yeah.
And so part of the barriers that I overcame was just doing what needed to be done and
Yeah.
being my authentic self. And in fact, one of the vice presidents in that company, well into my career there, gave me a great piece of advice that's always stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
Even all these years later, I have to remind myself. And what was shared with me was, let your work speak for itself.
Yeah.
And I think I want to say that again, it's a powerful comment for those tuning in and listening and watching. Let your work speak for itself. Because then the naysayers that don't believe women should, or people of different colors should, or what we can't and couldn't and shouldn't do,
Mm-hmm.
well, the work and the outcome and the support we lend other people, that's what will change minds. All the talking, all the policies, all the procedures, yes, they're important. We have to have that to try and change and advance things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's the results and the output that's going to speak for itself. Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah. And I agree. I think it's so important that, we show what we've done and we're proud of it. And like, we can see like, look, this is what we've done actionably. And like, you can't look down at me, you look at me differently because look at what I've been able to achieve. So I think that's a really powerful statement. And I think especially a lot of young women really need that as trying to figure out what they want to do, like where they want to work, how they want to go about it. I think it's so powerful to have that in their minds. Yeah. And then I think that like now I just want to speak about your overall experience in the workforce as a woman of color. So like have been some of the best parts or like the times that you've been the most proud, and what have been some of like, the harder parts, like parts where you felt a little bit down, and like how have you overcome that?
Yeah, I feel like it was, we want to go into it was the worst of times. It was the
Yeah.
best of times. And you know what? Those times happen at the same time. That's another thing I'd like to share with people. We like to think that life, even our career life, is very segmented. We're going to have a good day, we're going to have a bad day. We're going to have a good year, we're going to have a bad year. It doesn't work like that. I can have the best of times and the worst of times within the same hour. And that's okay. And to think that we have to understand that and embrace that, and for other people to know that that is okay. So what have been some of the worst times? Well, when I can tell that people will not give me the same respect because of my gender or because of my race. And it's not popular to talk about, but those of us that have been victims of misogyny or racism, it doesn't have to be overt. you know when someone is not giving you the respect or is coming from a lens of previous beliefs. They
Mhm.
have barriers. I call it my spidey sense is tingling.
Yeah.
And when they're not giving you the same opportunities, and it's the way they speak to you, the way they speak down to you. Those have been some bad things. Or I've had some overt experiences of misogyny and racism, and it wasn't so hidden,
Yeah.
but it was okay in those days because people weren't as woke and the policies and procedures weren't there. And that can leave you feeling very disheartened, devalued. I mean, we're all people, we're not robots. And so it can take the wind out of your sails, so to speak.
Mhm.
But coupled with all of that, I have had such a glorious career. And I feel, again, like I told you, I'm so happy and feel so honored where I've been able to teach and reach students who have shared with me that I made a difference in their learning journey, or even convinced them to change their career direction, and that they understood after spending some time with me that they had more potential than they ever believed.
Mhm.
Some of the best things I've been able to be recognized and to be told thank you from my peers. And that means a lot to me, to be recognized and appreciated by people that I value. And that I've been able to contribute to the development of the human resource profession here in the province of Alberta. When
Yeah.
I first started thinking about HR, it was just in the precipice of changing and growing, and the whole profession was evolving. So I feel so fortunate that I was there at that time and able to put my mark and my stamp and my ideas and my passion into it. So there's lots to be happy about. And overall, I'm always focused on those things, right? The bad things will happen,
Yeah.
but the positives far
Yeah.
outweigh it. And, I've also been very blessed. The best thing is to be surrounded by people that reinstate the wind in those sails. So when the wind goes out of the sails, you've got to have people around you,
Yeah.
personally and professionally, who will help keep your boat afloat and also help it keep moving.
No, yeah, I think that's a really powerful statement because I think, sometimes you have to go through those hard times and learn from it to be able to like help yourself and help other people around you. And then those people just come to appreciate you and make you feel better. So I think it's just like cycle or this like loop that kind of ends up working out. So I think that's a really amazing way to look at like hard times as well as good times. Amazing. So yeah, I think my next question is just about like leadership in general. I know you participate in a lot of things that like especially surrounding leaderships. Like what do you feel are the most important qualities for a leader to have? And like have you been able to grow those traits in yourself? And do you have any advice for other women who are looking to become leaders in their fields or, in school and stuff like that?
So the first piece of advice is to just do it.
Mhm.
People will often say, I'm not qualified. I don't have the right competencies to take on a leadership role. Yes, you do. If you have interest and you have a passion and you're willing to be authentic and learn and unlearn. I'm a big
Yes.
fan of both concepts, that you have to learn, but you also have to be willing to unlearn. That really ties into what I said about being willing to change your perspective, listen
Mhm.
to other people, to grow. That helps you be a leader. So, for example, one of my leadership roles, I was the first woman president of our faculty association at the university where I teach. So, the first woman in 28 years to take on that role, as well as the first woman of color to ever do it. So,
Mhm.
why would I take on those roles? Because I had a passion, I had a belief for what our faculty association does and the 800 plus people it represents and their interests, to make sure that we can continue to be leading edge, energized, dynamic, and rigorous instructors and educators. So you have that interest, you have that passion.
Yeah.
What also makes a good leader is someone who's willing to be, I use the word already, authentic and vulnerable. You can't leave yourself at the door and walk into a
Yeah.
role or walk into a room. You have to be who you are. Good leaders also want to listen and
Yeah.
develop their people. I found in leadership that a lot of times people just want to be heard.
Mhm.
So it's a lot more listening and a lot less talking, and really trying to understand different perspectives and vantage points.
Yeah.
And last but not least, leaders have to have good boundaries.
Mhm.
And I say that because you cannot be all things to all people. I know someone said to me, no matter what you do, you're going to piss someone off.
Mhm.
Make sure you're pissing off the right people
I
and
love
making the
that.
right people happy. And all these years later, and I've been on this planet for many, many moons now, and I still struggle with that. I share from a point of authenticity and vulnerability that
Yeah.
it's hard to disappoint people. I'm still working on setting boundaries and understanding that I cannot be all things to all people.
Mhm.
And it's a skill and a competency, but it develops. So good leaders just get in there, do it, do their best from a place of honesty, vulnerability, and authenticity. They build appropriate boundaries, and in doing so, they develop their skills.
Yeah, I think especially for women, I think they struggle a lot to, they want to please everyone and be everything to everyone. It's just not possible, and it's okay to, like you said, to make the right people mad. Sometimes it has to happen. Just make sure it's the right people. So yeah, I really like that, and I think it's good to also sometimes like disrupt like the narrative that you have to always be nice and pleasing everyone, and sometimes that just can't happen. Yeah, I think that's really, really unique advice. And I think I hadn't really heard that before. And so I think it'd be really valuable, for our viewers to be able to hear this stuff. And yeah, my last question is just like, do you have any motivational messages or any more advice for like the women in the audience that are watching this? I know you've already given some great bits and pieces, but if you have any more.
I would just like to encourage everybody watching and listening to tune out the negativity as much as possible. You are so much more
Mm-hmm.
than even you can imagine.
Yeah.
I look back and I've shared with different things that are happening in my career even now. And I'll say to my partner, I'll say to him, wow, I still am overwhelmed. And I'll say, if someone had told me when I was 20 that I would be doing X or that I would achieve Y, I couldn't have imagined. I just couldn't have believed it. And now I look back and think, well, why? Why couldn't I have imagined it? And why didn't I believe it? And some part of me must have.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere deep in me, there must have been that belief that I could and would and should do those things because I have.
Mm-hmm.
So when I give that advice to tune out the negativity, make sure you also turn out your own negativity.
Yes.
Own voice can be more powerful and loud than all those around you. You've got to be your number one biggest fan. And I'm not talking about being arrogant or, having about hubris and, being a narcissist. Those aren't the things we're talking about. I'm talking about being a proud professional woman who understands what she can and is capable of, and to embrace that and to love that and to dream big and do great things.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's so important to not doubt yourself and to really just put yourself first and make sure that you love yourself. And I think that is just a really powerful message that I think everyone needs to hear a little bit more. But yeah, those are all the questions that I had. If you have anything else you'd like to add.
I'd just like to say again that it's been such a pleasure. And I have one little more parting piece of advice, if
Yes.
I may. And I always love the saying when people say, that you're the sum of all your experiences. And so I'm going to question that too and challenge that and ask people to think about, I think you're much more than the sum of your experiences. It's not like experience A plus experience B plus experience C equals who you are. I think all of your experiences start to interact and they build off on one another. And so in the business world, of course, we call that synergy. So those of you that are playing bingo out there can now she said it. She said the word synergy, mark it off the bingo card. No, but it's true. Right? It's synergy. It's you are much more than just X plus Y plus Z. You're a combination of how those all bounce off of one another and enhance one another. And everything you have done and will done is amazing and will have amazing ability to build more than you can even imagine. So it's not just the sum of your parts. You are the interaction and the energy and the passion that is happening because of all your parts.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, Melanie. It was an amazing 30 minutes speaking with you, and I think this is going to be super insightful for everyone. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for the honor. And I'll close by wishing that everyone continues to take very good care of themselves. And may you and yours all stay healthy and safe.
Thank you.